Hello, and today we're going to talk about the determination of gender and examination of genes versus hormones. So first, I'm going to start out with giving a little bit of the basics of sex differentiation and why this whole, knowing this is really important. So sex differentiation begins at 7 weeks gestation. This means the 6 weeks prior to that are the bipotential weeks, and they're bipotential because fetus could either be a male or female. This also means up until this point, kind of everything is structurally the same. One of our more important organs regarding sex differentiation are our gonads. And this is where either the eggs or the sperm are produced, so where gametogenesis occurs. So the first 6 weeks, these are called germ cells because they're undifferentiated. When we reach the 7th week, if the fetus is a male, they get testes. If it's a female, they get ovaries. So the gonads are really important, but also the external and their internal genitalia are really important because although the site of, sperm and egg production is in the gonads, if there's nothing else to help them leave those gonads, then fertilization would never occur. And so it's important to remember that external and internal genitalia are vital. And so I just listed what the, undifferentiated structures are. So that would be the genital tubercle, the urethral folds, the urethral groove, the labioscrotal swellings. Additionally, I kind of added this picture of a fetus at 6 weeks gestation, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, just because we're right now talking about gestation starts at the 7th week, and so this is just prior to that, so just kind of to give an idea of what we're looking at, and also how unbelievable it is that at this point is when the fetus begins developing its reproductive organs. And as we've learned throughout the course, this is when egg and sperm development began in utero, so that's just really mind-blowing, and thought it was good to show this picture, and also because later I show a picture of what the embryo looks like at 7 weeks. So I'm going to talk about gene regulation. So just a little bit of review, chromosomes, how they're important to this process. So we have 22 matched homologous pairs, and then we have 1 pair of sex chromosomes, so 46 total chromosomes. The chromosome, if each parent gives an X, it's a female. If the female gives an X and the male gives a Y, then it's a male. So this really starts out with sex differentiation. This is where it all begins. This is also where abnormalities can already begin. So let's say the female gives an X, the male doesn't give anything, so it's X0 or XO. That is still a female. Someone who has that, they have Turner syndrome, and that's because they're a female, but they might not fully develop as a female, so there could definitely be problems down the road for them. However, if let's say just the male gives a Y, female gives nothing, so it's Y0 or YO, in that case the embryo is not going to live, and that's because the X chromosome actually carries a lot of really important genes that are vital for life, and so that's why it's really important to understand how chromosomes affect sex. So the next really important gene is the SRY gene. So this is the sex-determining region of the Y chromosome, SRY. So this basically is really important for gonad development. So if the SRY gene is present, then testes will develop. If the SRY gene is not present, then ovaries develop. And so, just the presence or absence of this gene is really important. And then not to mention that the SRY gene activates other important genes that are related to sex differentiation, like SOX9, WT1, SF1. Now, I don't really know the specifics of these genes, but I do know that it's important to understand that just one gene can kind of cause this cascade of genes or other events that are really important. So now, on to hormonal control. And so hormonal control throughout this whole process is really confusing. So this is just kind of a basic version of that. And the first thing I put is wanted to emphasize the point that genes are really the first step of sex differentiation, and then kind of hormones take control. So genes determine pretty much the gonads, and then everything after that is really influenced by hormones. So in males, they have Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells secrete anti-Müllerian hormone, or AMH. So this is really important because if AMH is present, then that will cause the disintegration of the Müllerian ducts. So an undifferentiated fetus, or embryo, has Müllerian ducts and Wolffian ducts. They start out with both, but Müllerian is unique to female and Wolffian are unique to male. And so you can't have both once you're becoming one sex or another. And so this AMH hormone that Sertoli cells secrete causes the disintegration of these Müllerian ducts, which at the same time, so testes secrete testosterone. Testosterone prompts the Wolffian duct to grow into the vas deferens, the epididymis, that all goes into the urethra. And so kind of the combination of the AMH and testosterone is what causes just one pair of ducts to form. So then we have the Leydig cells, and those secrete androgen and dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. DHT is really important because it controls formation of the other external and some internal genitalia for males. And so when we have Leydig cells present, they'll secrete DHT. And so that's just kind of a brief overview of males. So then looking at females, so SRY is not present, which means there's not going to be any AMH present, so Müllerian ducts will develop. Because Müllerian ducts are developing and there's no testosterone coming from the ovaries, then the Wolffian ducts will disintegrate. And so that's, just kind of a really basic and important picture. And the Müllerian ducts develop into the fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina. And then DHT is not secreted here, so male external genitalia does not develop, which is obviously very important. And as I kind of mentioned, ovaries do not secrete testosterone, they secrete estrogen. And so I was really talking about these ducts, and I think that it's really important because this is the basis of, all of our reproductive organs. And so in the middle of this picture, it shows in black the Müllerian duct, and in blue the Wolffian duct, and then you see the gonads at the top. So if you look to the left, you see that the Wolffian duct is disintegrating, and that's because we do not have AMH present. And so on the right, we have our Wolffian duct there, and that's because AMH is present, and testosterone is also present, trying to form the rest of that. So I just thought that was a really good image to look at and understand how the sex differentiation process is really a neat but complex thing. So what are some other considerations? And this, starts to go into a little bit more about reproduction. But I just also wanted to point out that some hormones are shared. Actually, a lot of hormones are shared between males and females. So although they're two different sexes, these hormones do have similar roles. And so we have the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH. This comes from the hypothalamus, and it controls secretion of two anterior pituitary hormones. And these are luteinizing hormone, LH, follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH. Really important in sex steroid release and gametogenesis. And then another important thing I wanted to think about is that AMH is produced without brain center influences. And so by this, I mean, just wanted to point out that the gonads and ovaries and testes can kind of secrete their own hormones to help with this whole process. And I think that's something that's really unique about sex differentiation. So just some final thoughts. The chromosomal consideration is really important. That's, begins the cascade of events. And then you have the sex-determining region of the Y chromosome, if that's present, male, not present, female. From there, we get our gonad development. Then we have genes that are secreted from our gonads that prompt this hormonal regulation that'll form the rest of our either female or male organs. And then this all happens after 7 weeks. So before this, everything's bipotential embryonic tissue, which is really crazy. That in those 6 weeks, the body can get ready to do this. And so, as I had said earlier, I was going to show a picture of 7th week gestation. So just to give a little reminder, here's the fetus or embryo at 6 weeks. I'm no expert in this, so I really can't spot out great differences, but I can tell that by 7 weeks, the fetus looks a lot bigger, which is amazing that a week will do that. And so just another really impressive thing, the way that our bodies function. And so that was just a brief overview of sex differentiation. And thank you.